Did you look at the stars with wonder in your eyes, imagining how it all could be?
Hello, my friends. I am here to share a Wednesday night story time with you all, and I want to tell you before I do that this month in November, the third and fourth Sundays of the month, because we have 5 Sundays in November. That doesn't happen every month. But the third and fourth Sundays of the month, kids are invited to come to in-person kids church, all ages, for the third and fourth Sundays, okay? Just have your parents let Miss Rhonda know if you're going to be there, so we make sure that we have enough grown-ups to watch everyone and take care of everyone, okay? Now, let's get on to our story. So this book is called Arlo and the Great Big Cover-Up. And there is a verse to start off this book. It's Proverbs 28:13 that says, "Whoever conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will obtain mercy." My goodness, there are a few big words in there. Okay, conceals. What does it mean to conceal something? It means that we hide it. If you hide behind a tree when you're playing hide and seek, you are concealing yourself. Transgressions. What in the world does transgressions mean? That means if you do something that's wrong, that's a transgression, something you're not supposed to do. Prosper. What does it mean to prosper? It means if you do very well at something, or sometimes people might say someone who has a lot of money is very prosperous. They have a lot of something, they've done well. Confess. What does it mean to confess? What if you accidentally broke your brother or sister's toy when you were playing with it, and you say, "I broke your toy, I'm really sorry"? That's confessing, when you say, "I did something wrong and I'm sorry about it." Forsake. My goodness, what does it mean to forsake? There's so many big words in this verse. Forsake means that you leave something behind. You go away from it. Sometimes you can forsake something good, or you can forsake something bad, but you leave it behind. And then obtain. What does it mean to obtain something? I bet that some of you obtain some candy at Halloween. It just means that you get something. Someone gives it to you, you get something. And then mercy. Mercy is a word that we talk about a lot when we talk about God. What does mercy mean? Mercy. Mercy, I think one way we can think about it is when we don't get something that we deserve. So if you did something wrong and you're afraid that you're going to be punished, and your parent, or get a consequence, some people might say, but your parents say, "I've decided that this time I'm going to give you mercy. I'm not going to give you a consequence." That would be showing mercy if you say, "I forgive you," and you don't have to have a consequence. Okay, so let's look at that verse again. So whoever hides something they've done wrong will not be successful, but he who tells what they have done wrong and leaves it behind, doesn't do it anymore, will have mercy. They will be basically off the hook. They won't have a consequence. Okay, so does that give us a clue, you think, as to what our story is about? It happened during quiet rest time. Arlo noticed a scratch on the wall just over his bed. The scratch looked like a mouth. This is what he's imagining in his head. Arlo was not allowed to get off his bed during quiet rest time, but if he kept one foot on his bed and stretched the other leg out, he could reach the markers on his desk. Then Arlo did a very naughty thing. He took the cap off the blue marker. He drew a nose and two eyes on the wall. Double uh-oh. Arlo felt funny. He was not allowed to draw on the walls, not with a pencil, not with a crayon, and above all, not with a marker. Arlo sat on the bed and thought. He took the cap off the brown marker and drew a frame around the face. He thought the frame might make the face look like it belonged on the wall, but Arlo's square was not quite square, and he knew his mom would not be fooled. Oh dear. Arlo thought some more. He grabbed some tissues from the bedside table and started scrubbing. It was no use. The marker did not come off the wall, but it did smear together. Arlo had made a big blue and brown mess. Arlo felt afraid. Have any of you guys ever been in that boat before? Me too. His mom was not going to be happy with him. He must find a way to cover up the mess on the wall before the end of quiet rest time. He got off the bed. This time, he didn't bother to keep one foot on. He dumped out his toy box, picked it up, and put it on the bed. It was no good. He could still see the mess on the wall. He's trying to hide it, isn't he? He piled up games on top of the box. The eyes on the wall kept looking at him. His heart was beating fast. He grabbed books and toys and piled them higher. Arlo had done it. The drawing could not be seen behind the towering pile of toys. What do you think? Is that going to work? No. Just then he heard his mom coming up the stairs. He scrambled under the bed. Arlo, his mom said, "Where are you?" Arlo kept quiet. His mom sat down on the bed. All at once the tower came tumbling down. "Arlo," she said, "come out here." Arlo crawled out from under the bed, but he covered his eyes. His mom picked him up and put him in her lap, and she said, "Did you color on the wall with a marker?" Arlo kept his hands over his eyes and shook his head. His mom pulled his hands away and looked him in the eyes. "Arlo," she said again, "did you color on the wall with a marker?" He looked back at her, and this time he told the truth. "Yes," he said, in a voice that could barely be heard. "Did you cover it up?" Arlo took a deep breath. "Yes," he said, a little louder this time. "Arlo," she said, "you disobeyed when you colored on the wall. You also disobeyed when you got off your bed to get your toys." Arlo threw his arms around his mother. I'm sorry I disobeyed." Arlo's mother gave him a tight squeeze. "I forgive you, Arlo." "Am I going to get a punishment?" he asked, without letting go. "Yes, you have lost your screen time for today and tomorrow." That sounds familiar. Arlo felt a little sad. He liked to watch a video while he ate his afternoon snack, but he couldn't feel too sad while his mom was still hugging him. Then Arlo had a thought. He sat up and, with a worried voice, asked, "Will I always have this mess over my bed?" Arlo's mom smiled. "I thought I would get my super sponge out from under the sink and clean it off. Would you like that?" "Oh, yes," Arlo said. As they walked downstairs to get the sponge, Arlo's mom said, "You know, sometimes when I do something wrong, I want to hide." Surprised, Arlo asked, "You do? Who do you hide from?" "When I sin, I want to hide it from God. I don't want him to know about it, and I don't want to talk to him because he might find out." "That's silly," Arlo said. "God knows everything already." "I know," said his mom. "We can't hide our sin from God, and when we try, it only makes us unhappy." Arlo thought for a minute. "I was unhappy when I was hiding from you under the bed." "I know," said his mom, "and I knew that you would never be able to get the mess off the wall without my help. I'm glad you came out and told the truth. When we tell God the truth about our sin, he is ready and waiting to help us. That's why he sent his son, Jesus." Arlo looked at the clean wall. He threw his arms around his mom again. "Thank you for washing off my mess," he said. "Cleaned up is much, much better than covered up." And that is the end. So, question for you guys. This story, of course, started off with a Bible verse, but the things that happened in this story, do they remind you of any other story in the Bible that you've heard before? Maybe a story where someone did something they knew they should not do, but they did it anyway, and then they tried to hide. They tried to hide what they had done, but then God found them, and God saw what they had done. That reminds me of the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. What do you guys think? When Eve and Adam both ate the fruit from the tree that God said not to eat from, and then what did they do? They hid from God, didn't they? And they made clothes for themselves because they were embarrassed that they were naked before God. And so, do you guys remember what God did? Do you think he showed them mercy after that? Were they allowed to stay in the garden? No, they did have a consequence, didn't they? Just like Arlo. Arlo had a consequence, right? He lost some screen time. But do you think that Adam and Eve still had mercy shown to them? Because God said if they ate the fruit, then they would die. But they didn't die right away, did they? No. They didn't live forever, but they still were allowed to live. And God gave them a different place to live, but they didn't get to stay inside the garden and be with God anymore. So just like Arlo, they did have a consequence, but their consequence could have been much worse. So they still probably didn't get as bad of a consequence as what they deserved for their disobeying God. just like Arlo. Could he have had a worse consequence for writing on the wall? Probably. He could probably have a worse consequence than 2 days of no screen time, don't you think? So I think that Adam and Eve were shown mercy by God, just like Arlo was shown mercy by his mom. Don't you guys think? Okay, well, next time I see you, maybe you can tell me a time where something like this has happened to you, because I can definitely tell you a time where something like this has happened to me. And I have some very interesting stories about things like that. So next time you see me, you can ask me if you want, and I'll tell you, okay? So I am looking forward to seeing you guys soon, and I hope that you are having a great week and that you enjoyed the story. And I miss you guys. Love you. Bye.
Did you know that he's the one